I must observe that I am buoyed by the fact that we have so many members of the public here tonight, and I appreciate your attendance, as do the members of the board. Many times we speak to an empty room, so it's at least good to have an audience. I'm going to invite you to, just give me a second, sir. I'm going to invite you up for the portion of the meeting where you give testimony either in favor of or in opposition to the application. Because of the large number of people who are here, I don't want to limit you. However, we're going to keep it to 2 minutes each. And if all you're going to do is repeat something that someone else said, you can come up, state your name and address, and say, I endorse what Mr. So-and-so or Ms. So-and-so said, so that we can move, because we stop at 11 o'clock. And in fairness to the applicant and not having to come back another time, I would like to try to bring this application to a conclusion tonight and to a vote. So having said that, sir, your hand was up first.
So first I just want to say, I don't know if you're already residents of West Orange, but I want to welcome you to West Orange.
Thank you.
I also want to just say that it is unfortunate that your entry into West Orange starts with the system, because systems are always laborious and they can never really connect with the heart of people. But I think that you'll find that West Orange is a community that can be a forever community, that your son and you guys can live in your forever home. And I appreciate the work that you guys have put in to make your home suitable. I have a 30-year-old daughter with special needs. We understand the dynamic and the challenges of what it means to prepare for an eventuality that you hope will begin to come to fruition even after you're gone. And I will tell you, the one thing that I love about West Orange, and the thing that we pay extra as our daughters get ready to go into her apartment, is so that she can be in a community where she is known and where she is cared for. And that's the type of community that West Orange is. So as a board member of the Mayor's Program for Individuals with Disabilities, 21-year resident here, I welcome you, and I want you to know that when you get done with this process, and we need to let them get done with this process, you will find that you picked the right area and you fought the right fight for your son's forever home. We welcome you and we thank you for this. We thank you all for the labor and the work that you have to do this. And if I ever get in trouble, sis,
Members of the public, anybody else care to follow that?
No. I was here at the first hearing because I was interested in the case, number one, and I knew the neighbor who was next door to the place. In everything, this board tried very hard to work with the applicant. They went over the prints diligently. They made suggestions. They tried in every way to understand how to get ramps in this very difficult house, because the house has a big buffer. I don't know if you know about that. And they looked at it and they said, the first thing they said is, we bought the wrong house for ramps. And then they tried very hard in both sessions to meet the requirements. They wanted something safe for your child. And that's what they were working on. They were not trying to obstruct. And people that put forth a program on television and who's here now to do it again. Because this woman started with a very antagonistic letter to the board, stating about various the word is that they were not sympathetic with the applicant, that they were discriminating, and that there are laws against discriminating. That came out at the second session. That was wrong. This board, I saw how they worked diligently. They were trying to put together something that would be safe for this child and safe for the people. And they asked the architect, please, can you come in with a new plan? That new plan was not made the second time. This board worked really hard. And so I really am very disturbed by the kind of publicity that went in to the newspaper and onto the television, claiming that they were discriminating. They were not discriminating. I remember this lady here saying, this is such a narrow place, is it going to be safe if there were any kind of problem? How would we get to that? How would the fire department or police department get to this child?
So, I appreciate.
Okay, I just want to put on record that this board worked for us. Okay?
Maybe for you.
Maybe for you.
Sir, in the second row, Mr. Barak.
Okay, so, first, you start at 8 o'clock, maybe on time. It's graduation night with us. Many people couldn't come, me too, because my daughter graduated tonight. So I just want to say,
Congratulations.
thank you. Whoever arranged that should think about those things. But it's okay. So you start at 8 o'clock. You know, we have a lot of people can't stand that long. And it's 2.5 hours, and I'm looking on all of you. I feel bad about that, but it's okay. I have my 2 minutes. I'll say what I want. I smell already, okay? We're going a while about that thing. Let's just do the right thing tonight and end it, because otherwise the town going the wrong way. Discrimination about disabled, racial thing, I'll go with that. I'm Jewish. I'm originally from Israel. I drive to the school, my daughter, sometime in the morning. I know the synagogue in the corner. So please, you're going the wrong way here. You already created that. The news is here. Some people talking about the racial issue, the discrimination issue. So please, end it. It's a simple thing. It's bureaucracy. I don't know. You have better things to do about it. Make Garbowski, the engineer, the construction guy for the town, make it up to them. Let me build the rent for them the way the town wants. You just need the right to go to their house, save whatever way you require, and that's it. Maybe make it to them, make it up to them. They have a steel apartment somewhere in New York. One person live here, one commuting. It's not normal. They need to be together here in the town. They bought the house 2016, and we are in 18, and they still separated, and Ethan is not in the town yet. So please do the right thing tonight. Try to resolve it. That's it. There is nothing to it. A little one will build it the way that you are.
Thank you so very much. In the second row, please.
I'm here as a member of the community, as a special educator and a writer who study disability issues. Something I've learned to appreciate is that it's difficult to understand the perspective of the community when you're not a member of it. And as a parent of 2 children with disabilities myself, one of whom is in a wheelchair, I'd like you to appreciate that the tone and the language used throughout this case has been troubling. 1 in 6 children in America live with a disability, and yet the disabled are the largest unrecognized minority in this country. Now, I doubt very much that I can solve the existing differences in perspective here, but I suggest the next time you're adding to the conversation about the disabled, you give yourself an exercise first of substituting disabled with any other minority group and see how it feels to you. Because if you've stood here and suggested a child who happened to be Hispanic or African American this property, and you ask him if he can design an unobtrusive ramp and question the amount of buffer towards the neighbor and the street visibility, or with all due respect, can you put some kind of landscaping in front of the ramp? You don't maybe realize that you're implying that the ramp and the person who needs it is not welcome to be seen. And you don't have the right to tell anyone, even unintentionally, that they don't belong. And if you're thinking that maybe this is an unfair comparison because this isn't about skin color or ethnicity, and after all, there are very real physical access barriers, I would say that's exactly the point. There are real physical access barriers that the disabled unfairly face every day, despite the ADA, fair housing laws, and common sense and courtesy. So denying Ethan access to his home needs to just end today. And before you say you haven't issued any denials, see it from Ethan's point of view. Because when you sit in a wheelchair, delayed access is denied access. And to be sure, I never really doubted for one moment that this board wasn't working hard to do the right thing for Ethan, and I sincerely thank you for that. Please pass this tonight.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give here this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, nothing but that.
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for reference.
My name is Joe Krakowiak. I live on Grandview Avenue. First of all, I want to just say thank you for your perseverance and your class through all of this. And I too welcome our community. Thank you. To the board, I just want to say that I appreciate your diligence and you trying to exercise your statutory obligation to balance the intent of the interests of the applicant, our laws, and our community. But I hope that there are things that happen during these hearings that you decide that you will not repeat. In particular, board members have a statutory responsibility to discuss and act as a board and not to allow anyone else to speak in your name. To abrogate your responsibilities to serve your community by acting in public, discussing and taking a vote, and also following the practice and procedures laid down by the state statute and the practices here in West Orange to provide a written communication to the council explaining why you wanted to hire Mr. Ritchie. Mr. Ritchie is an outstanding architect. He's a former member here who served honorably, but I don't believe he should have been here, and I hesitate to think of how much money we have spent on Mr. Ritchie. But I will say this, I do appreciate the board agreeing to not have him continue in this manner. I also want to just read a few excerpts from what's known as the joint statement of the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Department of Justice, the state and local land use laws and practices, and the application of the Fair Housing Act. Please bear with me because I think this is really important. The Fair Housing Act prohibits a broad range of housing practices that discriminate against individuals. As established by the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, federal laws such as the Fair Housing Act take precedence over conflicting state and local laws. The Fair Housing Act thus prohibits state and local land use and zoning laws, policies, and practices that discriminate based on a characteristic protected under the Act. Prohibited practices as defined in the Act include making unavailable or denying housing because of a protected characteristic. This is a document that was issued in 2016. Examples of state and local land use and zoning laws or practices that may violate the Act include refusing to provide reasonable accommodations to land use or zoning policies when such accommodations may be necessary to allow persons with disabilities to have an equal opportunity to use and enjoy the housing by, for example, denying a request to modify a setback requirement so an accessible sidewalk or ramp can be provided for one or more persons with mobility disabilities. A land use or zoning practice may be intentionally discriminatory even if there is no personal bias or animus on the part of individual government officials. And my battery's dying, so I'll be finished.
Sorry to hear that, Mr. Victoria.
Can My battery's dying, so I'll be finished.
Sorry to hear that, Mr. Victoria.
Can state
There could be other homes that are more suited for handicap. Although if this is not the right house, then.
state and local land use and zoning laws or practices violate the Fair Housing Act if the state or locality did not intend to discriminate against persons on a prohibited basis? The answer is yes. Even absent a discriminatory intent, state and local governments may be liable under the Act for any land use or zoning law or practice that has an unjustified discriminatory effect because of a protected characteristic. And my battery stopped. Thank you very much.
Proceed, Ms. Burrow.
I'm a self-appointed advocate for senior citizens. As part of my advocacy, I've done extensive research on senior issues. One major issue is mobility. This was pointed out in 2015 White House Conference on Aging, where it states, at the conference, the administration announced an extraordinary number of public actions and initiatives across the government and across the country to help ensure that Americans have increased opportunity and ability to live in retirement with dignity that older adults can enjoy with full physical and social well-being, that older adults can maximize independence and ability to age in place. I also attended a mobility conference hosted by the New York Department of Transportation. When I walked into the room, I saw a table with 8 young adults who had seen arguments. That instantly made me aware that seniors face the same barriers and obstacles that disabled persons face. So our advocacy has expanded to include persons with disabilities. Another point that the report makes, and this is we must acknowledge our demographic reality. The United States continues to experience incredible demographic transformation. Over 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day. So there's been more of us every year through the decades. It's reasonable to expect that if we seniors want to age in place, we will have to come before this body to ask for variances to retrofit our homes so that we can age in place. We will be using canes, walkers, and wheelchairs, and we will very likely need ramps and pipes. This board will set a precedent if it approves this application. It will tell seniors, yes, West Orange wants you to age in place. You will not have to move somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burrow.
Point here is I'm an alumnus of West Orange. I grew up here. Didn't go to school here, took the bus down to Newark to St. Benedict's Prep. And after that, my mother continued to live here for a long, long time. Had family businesses in town. I was appalled when I saw the news report. And the incendiary commentary was very, very upsetting, to say the least. And having said that, I became a little fired up. Sent what I thought was the best note to certain individuals on the town council. It made its way around to some people. I received a couple emails from some people that I had known in the old days. So I'm glad to be here. West Orange, I love West Orange. They are a passionate town. them to do the right thing here. This is a civil right. It's a senior right. What I'm going to share with you now is the end of my speech. What this says is equal access under the law from the ADA from 1990. Ethan and everybody in this room has the same entitlements as everyone else in this room. Whether you stand, you don't stand, you're mobile, you're not mobile, whether it's race, ethnicity, religion, or anything else. We all have equal access. And that's the law. Thank you very much.
Yes, I just want to thank, as a person with a hearing impairment, almost half my hearing is gone. I would thank you for taking the time and effort to speak into your microphones, which is a really big deal for me. I would appreciate
other member of the public? Seeing none,